Good morning and welcome to today's webinar, Diversity in Comms, How the PR and Comm Industry Can Improve. Delighted that you could all join us this morning. Please do join in the conversation on your favourite social platform, whether that's Twitter, Facebook. You can email us or use the hashtag Vuelio wherever you may be. My name is Jake O'Neill. I'm the Marketing Manager here at Vuelio, and I'm delighted to welcome onto our call today Kuldeep Mehmi, who is a Director at FTI Consulting, and also the Chair of the Taylor Bennett Alumni Board. Good morning, Kuldeep.
Good morning, Jake. Thank you so much for inviting me here today.
It's a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Please go ahead, Kuldeep.
Sorry. I just wanted to first of all, begin with an introduction to myself and then move on to a little bit about my history, how it is I came to work in the PR and communications industry, ending up at FTI Consulting, and my work with the Taylor Bennett Foundation in improving the diversity in the communications industry. So currently, I am, as Jake correctly announced, a director at FTI Consulting, but I first started my career as a corporate graduate at MHP. And how it is that I came to secure a role as a graduate at MHP was a different route to what others will have travelled. I am an Indian, and my background, I grew up with my parents constantly telling me that in order to become a success, there are a few routes to that kind of success. You could either be a lawyer or a doctor, an accountant, an engineer. So growing up with that kind of mindset kind of closed off a lot of options that are out there. And throughout my school and university, and even following my degree, without knowing about the communications industry, I wouldn't have actively sought out a job in the industry. And so it is through the Taylor Bennett Foundation that I learned more about the communications industry and what it could offer me. Myself, I was very interested in the financial markets, and I knew that one day I wanted a job that would help me to work along some of the largest financial companies in the world and learn more about economics and financials on a day-to-day basis. I knew I wanted to grow in that area. How to get there, I didn't know. So after university, I took the first job I could kind of get my hands on. I graduated in 2010, and my background was in sales. Throughout university and indeed through sixth form and school, I had a weekend job as a sales assistant at Dixon's. So naturally, the jobs I was getting responses from were those that were around sales, and I moved into that after university. But 2 years after that, I realized that it wasn't what I wanted to do. My parents could only offer me limited support in terms of, they were very opening. They were very glad that I'd secured a job after university. Both my parents have been on minimum wage jobs, manual labor jobs through all of their lives. So the support when I was looking for them for advice, they would offer me, they would kind of put it back to me and say, you know what, you've got a degree, you know best, we trust your decisions. And in reality, I was stuck. I didn't know where to turn. And they, bless my parents, they tried to help as much as they could, but the only real help they could do was arrange for meetings at the factory that they worked at or with, some of their colleagues. And as helpful as that was, it wasn't the career path that I wanted to take. Whilst at university, I attended University of East London. I regularly got emails from the careers department, and luckily they kept me on their mailing distribution list. And the Taylor Bennett Foundation came through those emails. And I looked at it and I kind of dismissed it because I didn't really understand what PR is. At university, you'd kind of, when you're with your friends, you go out, you understand PR as, those people that are standing outside clubs and bars and trying to get, people through the doors. So you kind of dismiss it and think, that's not what I want to do. So I think there was a massive kind of lack of understanding of what the whole PR and communications industry was. And I guess the only way I found out more is because one of my So a friend of mine that I used to live with at university, he actually went through the Taylor Bennett Foundation, and
Oh, wow.
and that's how I kind of, it opened my eyes up to that industry. I was like, do you know what? The kind of work you're doing is very interesting. Had no idea that this kind of existed in that industry.
Wow. So can you tell us about like your route? So that's how you found out about the Taylor Bennett Foundation.
Absolutely.
So what's your route once you joined the Taylor Bennett Foundation?
So the Taylor Bennett Foundation, I applied for the Taylor Bennett Foundation. It's a very rigorous process, and you have an assessment day, which to date it was one of my best, I think the massive learning experience for whoever goes on that assessment day, even if they don't go through to the Taylor Bennett Foundation. It involved a presentation, a number of interviews, and group tasks as well. So I learned so much through that day alone. And the fact that they give you detailed feedback, even if you don't go through to all applicants, is a major positive. So once I had secured a space on the program, they usually partner with an agency where you go in once a week and you're assigned a mentor. The program that we were partnered with at that time was MHP. I chose MHP because the actual traineeship that they partnered with the Taylor Bennett Foundation with offered teaching in a variety of disciplines. Because I didn't understand what the communications industry, what it could offer me, I thought, you know what, let's apply for MHP one rather than Brunswick, because I know Brunswick is very much financial. I knew that's what I wanted to do. But I didn't know what public affairs was. I didn't know, what does brand PR entail? What does corporate comms, what does that mean? What kind of work, how does it differ? So I'm glad I chose the MHP route because I learned so much about the whole comms industry, met so many people from different disciplines, which I still to date, keep in touch with. And it was a massively eye-opening process. So it was a 10-week traineeship where throughout the 10 weeks you are assigned tasks. Every morning you have to summarize the latest news. You have visits to in-house comms teams as well as other agencies. And then, as I said earlier, once a week you're there at MHP's offices or whoever they're partnered with. They're partnered with 4 different agencies a year. And every week on a Friday we'd go in and would present on a task that we were given. So it could range from arguing the benefits of plain packaging on cigarettes, or a PR campaign on highlighting the benefits of energy efficiency. So there were very interesting tasks, and it was quite high level work for a trainee, for a junior kind of traineeship. Because looking back at the internships that are offered, within companies, you don't get that kind of exposure in terms of getting a brief, working with teams, and putting together a presentation. In essence, a pitch document. So it was very intense, and it was highly educational. We have journalists giving talks to us on a regular basis. You have kind of etiquette English lessons as well to help you with your writing skills. And most importantly, because it's partnered with Taylor Bennett, you have a Taylor Bennett mentor where you meet and you can discuss how to put your cover letter together, how to put a CV together, what kind of experience to highlight. So it was, the kinds of jobs that you were applying for, there would always be someone there to turn to, which I found as a massive bonus because, as I explained earlier, that I only had a limited amount of resource that I could go to, and they themselves only had a limited amount of knowledge that they could share with me.
It sounds like an incredible experience and just such a wealth of different experiences that you're provided with. So do you think, obviously you've had a great experience at MHP, but like all the different companies that are involved in Taylor Bennett, are they all similar? Are they all taught to do it in the same way? Do some people do it differently? Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'd just like to take a step back a little bit in terms of following the program. Most often than not, the company that you're partnered with, they will first of all, the struggle is getting your foot in the door. And once you're on the Taylor Bennett Foundation, you're put in front of all of these magnificent companies, and they can see, and that's your time to shine. And so
myself and the trainees that I was with, we shone, and we were offered a chance to apply for the graduate scheme even though it had closed. So it is often down to the individual as well as, you know, the Taylor Bennett Foundation in opening those doors. And that's how I kind of secured my role as a graduate. It wasn't offered just to Taylor Bennett Foundation trainees. It was opened up to everyone in the UK could apply for it. And so gratefully they extended the graduate scheme, and I managed to secure it. And I was in the corporate team for 2 years, and then I moved over to the financials team, which was where I wanted to end up.
Yeah, that's incredible. We just had a question come through, which I think would be a good time to ask now rather than save for the end of the Q&A.
Sure.
But we've had, how much of a commitment is it for an organisation to get involved? So obviously it's a lot of work on your part to get into the scheme in the first place. But how much of a commitment is it for the organisation?
So the commitment, there is a weekly kind of presentation. So it usually takes half a day. Where over the course of the 10 weeks you should have a schedule in place in terms of what you want to teach these trainees, and have tasks that you can give them at the end of that week. In terms of allocation of resources, we advise one mentor per a trainee and a session every week. And of course, if you're interested in finding out more, we can set up conversations with the chief executive of the Taylor Bennett Foundation. They can discuss the kind of template program. But each company has their own way of delivering the program.
Right. Right. So it really sounds like it. Yeah, it depends. Obviously, it's your time to, like you said, it's your time to shine when you're in front of all these companies. And it sounds like different companies, you will get a different experience, but each will be rich in its own way.
Exactly. And we found that companies themselves, they find it beneficial as well, because it gives them a chance to train up it doesn't have to be presentations from senior people. It can be presentations from mid-tier or junior staff to talk about their experiences. And that gives those, your employees the chance and experience to present to people, refine and hone their presentation skills at the same time as delivering something valuable to trainees.
Excellent. So you go through, you're partnered with MHP, you have this incredible experience where you get all different experiences across the PR and comms spectrum. Mm-hmm. What do you do next?
So I was true to myself. I always knew I wanted to go into financial PR because ultimately that is what I enjoy. I love reading about the financial markets, what's going on in the world. So in my head, in 5 years' time, and I said this at MHP to Jonathan Lomax, who hired me, that in 5 years' time, they asked me this question, I said I wanted to be in financial PR. And I'm so grateful that they gave me the chance to move within MHP to the financial communications team once I had built up that foundation of skills. In terms of at PR at a junior level, there is that base level of skills that you need to build up in terms of knowing how to do your research on journalists, put together briefing notes, media lists, and there is lots of transferable skills to build up at that junior level. And I think once I had proven myself and they had an opening, I was offered the chance to move across, which I grabbed with both hands, and I enjoyed every moment of it, and I've made some absolutely fabulous friends at MHP. And that, I guess I'm going to go back and say that's one thing that the Taylor Bennett Foundation taught me, is that your network. So Heather McGregor, it stayed in my head. Heather McGregor, who set up the Taylor Bennett Foundation, she spoke to us and she said, your network is your net worth. So build out that network and you will be valuable. You'll be valued by your employees, you'll be valued by yourself, because that is where you will kind of add value to an organization. And I've done that, and I've found that it has helped me immensely throughout my career. I'm still in touch with many of the organizations that I had visited when I was on the Taylor Bennett Foundation, and it teaches you to keep in touch with your colleagues. You're at an agency and they move to in-house roles. It teaches you to keep in touch with those, and those relationships will flourish if you stay in agency. And for instance, as a new business pitch, you can get yourself in the door because you know the person. So some great skills that I had kind of taken from the Taylor Bennett Foundation I still use to this day.
Yeah, and with with the idea that your network is your net worth, I feel like that kind of feeds into the fact that after you graduated from the Taylor Bennett Foundation, you stayed involved with the Taylor Bennett Foundation.
Exactly. I thought, you know what, the Taylor Bennett Foundation gave me this opportunity. It opened these doors for me, and look what it's done. Look where I am. I never thought in a million years that I would be where I am right now, working for one of the largest financial PR communications companies in the world. And looking back 5 years, I don't think I could even think about it. So for me, it's very important to open those same doors to people that are looking to, enter into the communications industry. And I find it very, it's my mission to do as much as I can for those that are, that don't have that network, I guess, or experience in reaching out to people for advice. So I'm always open to, I meet with every single trainee that goes through the Taylor Bennett Foundation, a founding member of the Shadow Board, which supports the trustee board in improving the engagement of alumni, so keeping them engaged once they've gone through the Taylor Bennett Foundation and they've secured their jobs. How can we keep that network together and grow that network? Because keeping in touch with each other, that's the one thing we have that we didn't have before the Taylor Bennett Foundation, and it's something that's proven so important, that we have that network, that we can rely on each other, talk to each other, and offer advice to each other. And so I've remained very closely linked to the Taylor Bennett Foundation in kind of developing the Shadow Board, and have become the chair of the foundation board to drive that engagement, direction, and growth.
Excellent. So what kind of activities are you doing on the Shadow Board?
So on the Shadow Board, myself, I oversee and actually closely, run some of the committees. So we have a profile raising committee where we look to work with other charities. So there's Bain 2020. I recently did a talk at one of their events on the Taylor Bennett Foundation, and working together to improve diversity in the communications and marketing industry. We have the same goals, so it makes sense to work together and join resources. So the profile raising committee is seeking out opportunities to raise the profile of, number one, the Taylor Bennett Foundation, number two, the lack of diversity in the industry and what we can do to address that. I've also set up an events committee, and the idea behind that is to hold insightful events where the Taylor Bennett alumni are priority guests to come. They can mingle with other alumni. It's an opportunity to keep in touch with fellow trainee graduates, as well as learn something insightful. And then we also open it up to the wider audience and comms industry as well. So it's an absolutely amazing network opportunity. So you have people from some of the largest investment banks in the comms industry, from some of the largest investment banks and firms around the UK attending some of these events. So it's another opportunity where they can see value in keeping in touch with the Taylor Bennett Foundation and keeping engaged, because it's so important to have that network there where trainees coming through the ranks have someone that they can turn to and talk to.
We've actually, I think this probably covers it, but we've actually had a couple of questions in which are quite similar, which is the fact that Taylor Bennett is feeding the industry from a graduate level. So what can be done as people go through their career to continue to be support and promoted and move up through the industry? And I guess this staying in touch with the Taylor Bennett Foundation is a great way of doing that. But what about people that didn't go through it in the first place? Is there opportunities, do you think, to encourage diversity?
Absolutely. So you're talking about the people that are looking to break into the communications industry but that didn't go through the Taylor Bennett Foundation scheme?
I was talking about people that maybe didn't go through the Taylor Bennett Foundation but are in the communications industry.
Yeah.
For that kind of next step, up.
Yeah. Oh, so absolutely. So So the Taylor Bennett Foundation, not only do they have this 10-week flagship traineeship scheme, there are a number of ways to get involved. So we have a mentoring program, which is a rolling, ongoing program. We have about 40 graduates going through this program in 2018 alone so far. So there's, you can support by joining as a mentor to the program. There's also like summer work placement programs where companies can take on trainees, and then you can help by supporting the trainee that is on board at that particular time. And there's also a series of lectures, so you can offer your help in terms of if you have some valuable insight you think you can share with the industry and to help raise the profile. Then it's the PR lectures is something that we're looking to continue to do on a year-on-year basis. Did I kind of interpret that question correctly?
Yeah. No, I think that's really good.
Yeah, and in terms of
we have sorry, go on.
Sure. No, let's go for the question.
I was just going to say we have had like a couple of questions that are covering the same thing. So I think this idea that obviously encouraging the right people to get into the industry, but obviously throughout the industry, it is a struggle. But to take it back to that entry level, we've had another question come in, and I know we've got the Q&A coming up, but people are asking questions thick and fast. Yeah. But someone's asked, why do you think that people from Bain backgrounds struggle to get their foot through the door, as you put it earlier? I work in a police in-house comms team, and we face challenges as a wider organisation in terms of representation and a diverse workforce, but also within our own team. What could we do differently to attract Bain candidates into comms, PR, media relations roles?
Okay, an interesting question. So I think that it's more of a question of where, how do you attract your kind of candidate base? So firms often say that they struggle to attract a diverse candidate pool. So there's a number of things organizations can do in terms of just looking back at where you actually advertise. Maybe you need to be a little bit more innovative in your advertising, where you advertise roles. So going back to my point earlier, I really didn't know much about the communications industry, and indeed that there was an element within the communications industry that I found that would interest me. So financial PR. So I guess looking, we have social media these days. You have a number of charities. So again, going back, because I work so closely with the Taylor Bennett Foundation, I know a lot about the ways that they can help you. So if you can offer, they advertise roles through the Taylor Bennett Foundation as well. So if you're looking to increase the diversity in the communications industry of your team, then advertise. One of the routes you can do is advertise roles through a charity, a diversity charity like the Taylor Bennett Foundation, who will be more than happy to advertise your role and supply, kind of put forward a number of candidates that have come from a diverse background. But also scrutinize the recruitment processes you have more widely. If you're getting candidates put forward to you through recruiters that are, the shortlist of candidates are not diverse, push them to provide a more diverse candidate shortlist. There was a BBC documentary that I can recall a couple of years ago now, I think, where 100 applications were sent out by someone with a Western name and someone with a Far Eastern name. I think it was Adam and Mohammed. And the same CV was sent out to the same employers, and the one with the Western name got offered 3 times as many interviews as the one with the name Mohammed. So it makes you think that that maybe your recruitment processes should be slightly different. Maybe you should have a blind name or a blind university kind of a recruitment process. Because I know that within, I didn't go to a great university, but there's a number of checklists that some of these large firms have in terms of attending one of the top universities. And if you actually there was an article in the FT recently where they showcased the Bain background individuals that went to Oxford, and they have this massive, or Cambridge they've got this picture of them. But if you ask those from that kind of background on where they want to end up in terms of their career, maybe some of them haven't heard of communications industry, so they're not going to actively seek out a role in the comms industry. So I think people need to be more proactive in reaching that kind of right audience, and a little bit more innovative in their processes.
And do you think, I'm just going to put up on the slides some stats from the PRCA's recent census, which does show a woeful lack of diversity in this industry, and it's it's moving in the right direction in terms of previous year's census, but it's slow and it's behind. And especially as so much of the industry is in London, the numbers are not good enough.
Yeah.
But someone has asked a question, do you think we need to go out to schools and colleges to showcase the opportunities within PR, within comms? And do you think maybe it is, I don't know, the responsibility of people like the PRCA and CIPR or individual agencies and firms?
That's a very good question. And that's one of the things that we've highlighted at the Taylor Bennett Foundation as being very important into increasing the kind of diverse candidate pool going into communication. So that's something that we do, as part of the events committee, that we try and seek out speaking opportunities at universities and schools. So something that we've found difficult is, actually getting into those kind of institutions. But maybe if there are employees that are interested in targeting those at school level, at a college level, then I would say just reach out to us or a charity and partner with them, because a joint effort and a joint team will be much more successful in getting that message across than going it alone.
Excellent. I'm very conscious of the time. I'm just going to ask one more question, and then we'll possibly answer the remaining questions that have come in that we haven't had time to get to on the Vuelio blog afterwards. But just in terms of the Taylor Bennett Foundation, someone has said, I'm new to PR and have recently taken up a PR role in my charity after 10 years of working in fundraising. Is there an age limit to signing up to the Taylor Bennett Foundation?
Absolutely not. Anybody can sign up to the Taylor Bennett Foundation. It's something, the Taylor Bennett Foundation was set up 10 years ago to improve access to the PR industry for people from a black and minority ethnic background. So, if you have that drive there, if you want to enter that industry, then, we welcome anybody from any age level.
Excellent. Kuldeep, we're going to have to stop it there just in terms of the time, but we will follow up everyone who's asked questions on the Vuelio blog, and a recording of the webinar will be sent out. Kuldeep, that was amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. It's been a pleasure, and look forward to our next webinar. Goodbye for now.